There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. About 40 hours into your labour, I was sitting there, I wanted some distraction. And I went, Claire, why don't we cancel birth? And I got my phone and I recorded a voice note. Hello and welcome to Cancelled, the podcast that looks at silly celebrity crimes and assigns charges and sentences to them so that we can all move on with our lives. We do that sometimes, but for the last 5 years, you and I have also been pregnant, aka not our best selves.
Yes.
Claire, are you currently pregnant?
I am no longer pregnant.
Why?
Because I have my baby.
Oh.
She's here now.
Woohoo.
I hope the cancelled listeners do need to know a few things.
Oh, okay.
Because she's a lazy girl.
Lazy girl.
She's a lazy girl.
And like, in what way is she a lazy? Because she's only 6 weeks.
She is only 6 weeks. Firstly, lazy in how she was born.
Okay,
Took a
we'll
very
get to
long
that.
time.
We'll get
got
to
stuck,
that.
Gave up.
Oh.
Which, hard relate.
What life is about is getting to a hurdle
Yeah.
and going,
"Ah,
it's too much. I'll wait
no,
here.
I'll wait here. I'll need some help.
Yes.
And so that's little Matilda.
That's the story of Matilda's. Yeah.
She's also very lazy in terms of we had some feeding issues because she was like, I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But I need milk urgently.
Mummy, I want some milk.
Her
Yeah.
first few days of life were her on her back with her arms open and her mouth open with a tiny syringe putting
Very
milk
Roman
into-
Emperor.
Very Roman Emperor.
Yeah.
Just being fed and her
Yeah.
being like, bloody, that is bloody
that is
lovely.
bloody lovely. That's
And
right.
not even using the tongue, just straight down the throat.
Yeah.
That's
which
my
is, I mean,
girl.
that is
Yeah.
your girl.
So
And
no, she's really lazy.
she is really lazy, little Matilda.
Mm.
Just for a little bit of context, you had Matilda, and we'll get into the birth story. It was hectic. It was full on. It was not what a lazy girl had prepared for.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
And she was born, and you and your partner, a few days later were looking at her. And for reasons we'll get to, she had a funny shaped head. And you said, she looks like a 400-year-old mouse.
Yeah.
And she did not look like a 400-year-old
She
mouse.
looked exactly like a 400-year-old
And now
mouse.
her name is Mouse.
Yeah, Mal.
I don't know if it's inappropriate that we call her Chairman Mao. I don't. But we do, like Mao Zedong. Claire, I don't know if I've said my name, but
I
we're out
think
of
you did.
practice.
You're
Jessie Stevens, you are Claire Stevens,
Mhm.
my twin sister. Before we get into what we're going to talk about today, which I think we've alluded to quite
A
heavily,
little bit.
lazy girl story. And I have one that I'm going to bring.
Because you get
You're
a bit
on
of
leave.
You get a bit of a lazy girl pass when you just had
get
a
a
baby.
week off. I knew I'd throw to you and you'd go, well, I don't have one. And then I'd go, well, you weren't meant to have one. And then Talissa would be like, I've got one. Hello, ladies. This is from Eloise. I was decidedly unlazy and took my motorbike and camping gear for a month-long touring trip of France and Spain.
Wow.
Okay, you don't sound like a lazy girl,
You got
Eloise.
your own way around.
Well, she visited a friend on the first day, she says. Couldn't be bothered to leave, spent a month there. Camping gear remained unpacked. When it came time to get the boat home after a month, so she didn't do the camping and the hiking.
No.
And then she had to get a boat home after she'd spent a month on the couch.
Yeah.
She couldn't be bothered with the boat. So she lives in France now. It's been 6 years. She still lives in France. P.S. Still have the motorbike, never registered it, still has my UK plates. So illegal, so lazy.
Yes.
Lazy girl.
She's a lazy girl. Because I was going to say, that's always the issue is the legal part.
Yes.
So I feel like I know a lot of people
There's got to be a loophole where you
who-
go not illegal, just lazy. Sometimes both.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who live in America and they're like, I live in America. I can't leave or go anywhere else because then I'll get caught. Because I can't be here. I've simply overstayed my welcome.
Oh, yes. I'm not committed a crime.
Yeah.
But there's paperwork, and that to me is my hurdle.
Yeah.
And I've had that. I've been driving. Oh, have you registered? No, I forgot.
I forgot.
So you should have a lazy pass. It's the lazy tax.
Yes.
We have talked about it. Claire, what are we discussing today?
Today we are talking about birth.
Push. Here we go. Let's do it. Say I can do it.
I can do it.
Good. And look at that, a healthy baby girl. Congrats, everyone.
Sorry, it's the only content thing I can talk about at this stage. Nothing else. We'll get to celebrities
remember,
next
a little while
week.
ago, we cancelled pregnancy. If you want to go back and listen to that, it's not good. We talked about that spotted hyena who births out of her penis hole. And wombats. We had images of them. And
they just lay around looking sad.
looking like me pregnant. Well, after pregnancy, the wildest thing happens. And that is birth.
Yeah.
Our structure for today is as follows. Firstly, too long. Secondly, too painful. Thirdly, too yuck. Fourthly, doesn't work, technically. Fifthly, the aftermath. I did this very quickly.
Okay, because it's a great structure.
The aftermath, in brackets, butthole, because I didn't want to forget.
We know what we're talking about.
And finally, the furniture, in brackets, removalists. It will make sense when we get there. Claire, too long. Discuss. You had your waters break.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said I wanted a cheeky 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
Where were you 6 to 8 hours after your waters broke?
At home. At home reading a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So waters broke very early morning of the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Baby wasn't born for 48 hours.
It's a very long time.
A very long time.
Okay. All right. So you go into hospital and you say, I'm in labour.
I say,
let's get this show on the road.
Look, I say, I am relatively sure I did not just piss myself. However, you should check. You should check.
I haven't told the story of what happened when I went to the hospital
'Cause you
saying
did
I'm
just
relatively
piss
sure I pissed myself. This is so disgusting. But I had a pad on because I was like, my waters have broken. And then what they do is they sniff it. And she said, you pissed yourself. And I was like, never mind. And Luca was in the other room, but I knew he heard it. We made eye contact afterwards and he was like, you pissed yourself. And I was like,
one
things aren't going well.
I had a pad on.
Yeah.
And she looked at the colour and she's like, oh, I'm pretty sure this colour's fine, but I'm not certain. So she walked around the ward and showed other midwives my pad. And I was like,
because it's straw coloured. And I was like, that's the same colour as my urine.
Yeah. When your waters break, it should be more distinct from urine. But it's not.
Yeah.
Given that you're
like,
pissing yourself towards the end of pregnancy. But in terms of being too long, the idea of active labour is some bullshit. And I'll tell you why. I'm contracting. Ain't that labour?
Yeah, my water's broken. I said that I had a 62.5-hour labour. And all these people
And people get really upset.
That's not labour. You weren't in labour.
You're in pre-labour.
I was like, same fucking difference. If I have contractions and I'm in pain and I'm timing them, I'm in labour.
I'm in labour. Yeah.
You don't get to decide what my labour is and isn't.
I get to decide that. So, yeah, I just have in my notes, like it hurts, ?
Okay,
so
true. I have in my notes, my doctor kept saying it's 1 day. And then I've written, it's not, mate, it's closer to a fucking week. All right?
It's not a day. In terms of being too long, the other thing is this. You're like, ow, contract.
Yeah.
So I went home, laboured, came to hospital crying. I was the drama. I walked in and I said, I'm in agony. I need an epidural. Check.
So hang on, check. I'm going to go dilation because that's what they check. Yep. And I had the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm 5. They're going to look, they're going to say, you're 8, you're ready. How many centimetres?
Just so that people who haven't had a baby or who didn't go through the vaginal birth process know, I think active labour is 4 centimetres. So if you're asking for an epidural, theoretically, you should be 4 centimetres. Labor, yeah. I go in, agony, you're 1.5 centimetres.
Okay, wait. So you are 1.5 centimetres dilated. Just for our listeners, what do you have to get to push the baby out? What's
10.
the goal? Okay, you have to be 10.
So I was only 1.5 out of 10, which there's a lot of measuring in hospital.
And not a lot of rulers.
Yeah.
None.
Great.
They stick a finger in, you're like, ow.
Same
and they're
as
like,
ab
there's
separation.
2 centimetres.
Same
and
as
it's like,
they just shove a finger in, 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres.
Well, do you have a big hand or a small hand?
And then I remember a couple of days after they gave Matilda a score for feeding. She got a 2.
Out of?
And I said, is it out of 3? Is it out of 2? Now,
Is it
out
out
of
of
like 7? And she wasn't feeding very well.
Do a score out of 7.
No.
Let's just keep
get
it
an
consistent.
APGAR score. You get all these scores and I'm like, stop scoring my baby.
And when scoring, do it over another number.
And
because we can't just walk in, oh, Luna, you're a 4, you're a 3. You're based on what?
Yeah. But no, I was a centimetre and a half out of 10, which is
Not
very
by any way you look at it, it's not good enough.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
But I said, quick, give me that epidural. And she said, it's fine.
Now. I said now into the back. Very true.
I said, it's not relevant to me how dilated I am. In that, I just need that epidural.
I need it now.
No, seriously, I want an epidural. I know there's time.
The other thing about it being too long,
Mm.
and I don't know if this was a fear of yours because yours was objectively too long, but sometimes it's also too quick.
Okay. Oh, for some people it's too
Yes.
quick. Yes.
So it's
Uh-huh.
like we had these mammoth labours.
It's either too long or too quick.
never just
the
right.
right amount. It's never the right amount.
I want to know if any lazy girls had a just right labour.
Yeah, let us know.
Because I've never heard of such a thing.
'Cause it's-
Other people are like, I parked at the hospital,
Mm.
went upstairs, had my baby, still had time left on my 2-hour parking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how did that go? Oh, no longer have any internal organs. Okay, I don't
Don't want that.
want that
I
either.
gave birth in the car. Don't want that.
Mm.
I gave birth at home. I didn't think I was that much into labour.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
you have a better pain threshold.
Not
than
our
me.
experience.
No. In terms of being too long as well, some lazy girls might know when it stops to troll you. So you go, I'm getting there. We're getting close together. Yes, yes, I'm Earth Mother.
Mm.
And then your contractions go, I'm going to take a break. And the fun thing about contractions is that when you're stressed or scared, they stop.
Why would you be stressed or scared?
Why would that happen? So I had an experience where I went to hospital, went to get my epidural, was like, I've never been scared of needles, give me this epidural. Then there was a complication with the epidural.
Yeah.
And the fun thing was that the complication with the epidural, and then the anaesthetist says, oh, you haven't had a contraction in 40 minutes. Oh, come on now.
So he's like, is the epidural working? Absolutely. It's completely worked. And then you have your next
You
contraction.
haven't felt a contraction.
Turns out it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I remember the midwife coming to you. You were laying in the bed, and by that point, I mean, it's day 11, and you're just laying there, and is it 7 p.m. or 5 a.m.? We don't know.
Yeah.
But you're laying there, and she comes in, and she says, everyone else has had their baby.
Yes.
And left. But you.
And she said the other women in the ward were actually saying, has that poor girl had her baby yet?
no,
It was about me.
she hasn't.
And no, I hadn't.
And I don't know if you got this sense, but I was looking at you going, it's very, I have shit to do. But you
Yeah.
don't. It's the only time in your life you have nothing else to do.
No.
But you're sort of like, can we hurry this along? This feels like it's blowing out. You know when you're in a meeting and you're like, this is blown out?
Yeah. This
It's-
is unnecessary. So it's a hypnobirthing kind of perspective. We're probably going to upset a lot of people with this podcast because people are very serious about how they think about birth and their approach to birth.
I am a calm birth advocate.
Yeah.
Do I think it affects how the baby comes out in the end? Not really. But I
But
think calm birth great.
The idea is, like, I listened to things, I read things, and you're meant to go into it thinking, my baby will come when my baby is ready. I'm not in a rush.
Mm.
Every contraction brings me closer to my baby. I'm not going to speed anything up. And then you have a contraction, you go, okay, this is suddenly urgent. Okay, I would do anything, including drinking meth. I don't think you can drink meth
No.
to get this
it's
baby
frowned
out
upon.
1 second sooner.
Yeah, so the funny thing about, say, a 60-hour labour is that there are times in that you should be asleep, but you can't because the contractions
your
are really
labour.
hurting.
Yeah.
So what's wild, say, about your labour is that was it 2 and a bit days or was it 1 day that never ended?
True.
Because it's not signposted by sleep.
And sorry, you're not in a position to think logically about what intervention will or will not. No,
Yeah.
I have gone nuts. Certifiably nuts. Okay? That's my medical condition.
Our next point is that it's too painful.
Mm-hmm.
Claire, would you agree with such a statement or do you think it's the right level of painful?
Okay. There's no way to explain it, but I will try.
Okay.
Because I tried to explain it to my partner on the way to hospital that morning. Again, I will stress I was 1.5 centimetres dilated, so I'm sure there are better descriptions. But I said to my partner, it feels as though somebody has a fire poker, you know, like a a fireplace and it's like kind of pointy. A fire poker that they're sticking up my butthole and the fire poker's on fire. It's
Okay.
hot.
Interesting about the butt. You talked a lot about your butthole during the whole
I
thing.
think my baby was posterior. I think that explains it.
Yeah.
No, but it was very butthole.
Now, why don't you just tell us what happened when the kind man put the epidural in, you accidentally moved and then he went silent?
Yeah. Yeah, so I had very bad sciatica at the end of pregnancy, and the doctor said, I am putting this needle in. You cannot move. And I went, ooh, that seems like a challenge.
Yeah.
In that if a needle goes in, I may feel it. He said it's going to hit, you're going to feel an electric shock and you can't move.
Yeah.
And I thought I better concentrate. And where he put it and where I felt the electric shock was my sciatic nerve.
Yeah.
So my leg went crazy.
Yes.
And then he went silent. And I thought, I've done something naughty
I'm in
here.
trouble.
I'm in trouble with the man with the needle. And he was silent.
Yep.
And then he went, ooh.
And then didn't he start saying, I'm going to tell you what went well?
Yes. So his approach was, I'm going to tell you what went well. And I've used that
And
in
what
life a
went-
lot. Yes. And what didn't go so well. There was an issue.
Yeah.
And he spoke about it for about 90 minutes. And during that time, I just kept thinking, am I paralyzed though? Am I paralyzed, mister? And then I asked that question and he said, no, not yet.
And so
I was not paralyzed.
He was using the chatting about nothing as a technique.
To see if I insert medical problem here. So when he walked out, I asked the midwife, excuse me, can you translate? And she said, I'm sorry, I do not understand. And I was like, great.
And so it appears that your epidural didn't work.
Wasn't the best.
No, it wasn't.
It worked for a
working.
few hours, but
And the real red flag for me was when he called 3 days later and said, did that work?
and asked if I had any side effects.
Yes. And you went, in hindsight, there was a moment where I was vomiting from pain and I think, no.
I think maybe it wasn't as effective as I would have liked. Okay?
That's my feedback.
But speaking of that, pain relief, because there are a lot of women who don't do pain relief or go into labour being like, I'm not going to do pain
respect your
relief.
choice.
Do I think those women are better than me? Absolutely.
Sorry, just in case there's any
Absolutely.
confusion. Absolutely.
Absolutely
I think you're
well
stronger.
done.
More evolved,
Yeah.
actually.
But I reckon every woman who experiences labour goes in to a couple of contractions and thinks, holy shit, I can do it.
Because I'm better than you.
One
Oh
of the
my
ones
God.
that can handle
I
it.
actually...
You have a little secret little suspicion you might be stronger than you think.
I'm
And
stoic.
then you get an epidural at 2 centimetres and you're like, I'm not the woman.
Actually, I am weak and I do not mind. But in the hospital, this also relates to it being too long, is that you actually hear other people. Yeah. And so in my lay, I thought, oh my gosh, I can hear a baby crying. How beautiful. It wasn't a baby crying. It was a grown woman screaming.
Okay.
And she was wailing. And the midwife came in and I said, did she have an epidural? And she said, no. And now she is begging for one.
Oh.
So just a fun little tidbit.
Because I got my epidural early too, and I was on the edge of the bed and I could hear a woman screaming and I went, oh no, maybe she's had her because I couldn't imagine that a woman wouldn't have an epidural. And I was like, oh, hers hasn't worked. And they were like, no, she's next in line. And I was like, okay, I think I might have pushed in.
I think you should go to her.
I was like,
In that
abort
she's
this
screaming.
mission.
In that she's
And
screaming.
I think I pushed in.
Too painful.
Speaking of, porcupines are an animal.
Okay.
And they have babies called porcupine.
All
All right. There is more to this fact, although that would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
Porcupines are said to have some of the most painful births.
Is it
Right?
because of the spike?
Okay. So mostly the spikes are soft on the way out,
Oh.
but sometimes the baby comes out backwards. And it's like an arrow, like imagine like an arrow,
Oh, no.
and it goes through all the birth canal on its way out.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah.
Don't do that to Mama.
Yeah, I think that's very Matilda, like your daughter.
Yes, yeah.
That's very
She
her.
was the drama.
Yeah.
And she came
was
out.
very a
She came
porcupine.
out. You can't see me, but I feel like she came out like this.
Yeah.
Moving
Like waving
all-
her arms.
Moving all her limbs and her tongue. Like, ah.
And there was, the kiwi bird is another animal.
Mhm.
It gives its whole body,
Okay.
right? And it is equivalent to if we gave
Oh, so it's
birth
gotta
to
shit
a
out itself.
filing
Yeah.
cabinet.
Okay.
Because Matilda,
Yeah.
you're 150 centimetres tall.
Mm-hmm.
How tall was Matilda?
55 centimetres.
Okay, that's more than a
She was
third.
more than a third my height, and I believe she was wrapped around my organs like a snake. That's how I see it. So I just feel like coming down the birth canal, my birth canal was like, we're not long enough for this bitch.
Yeah.
We're not.
And it was just toes, fingers,
Yeah,
elbows,
Head.
and such.
Yes.
To
And-
give a sense of the pain, about 40 hours into your labour,
Mm.
I was sitting there, I wanted some distraction. And I went, Claire, why don't we cancel birth?
Mhm.
And I got my phone and I recorded a voice note.
Well, hold on. Before that, I was on the gas because the epidural was not doing a lot for
we
me.
should probably preface with gas, yes.
And so I was on the gas, and you said, should we do some breathing or meditation? And I said, no,
yeah.
I want to talk shit like I'm at the club.
You did say that.
That's
yeah.
what I said.
Yeah.
And then I said, give me gossip from the Christmas
Yeah.
card. And you didn't have any.
I didn't have any. It
So
was really disappointing.
we moved to this.
We did. And we should say that right before that, so Matilda had, by this point, gotten stuck. You'd had the epidural. She was stuck every time they came in. 4 hours later, they come in. Oh, she's 5 centimetres. Well, I should probably be getting the epidural now, but I got it a day ago. And then 4 hours later, you're still 5 centimetres. It just kept going, right? So the midwife has come in. She's gone, you're 5 centimetres. And she said something to you right before I have recorded this voice note. Here's what you said.
Claire, I'm recording this. Do you want to say anything about cancelling birth?
I think it's really unfair.
Why?
And I just think it could be a lot fucking simpler.
Yeah.
Like, logistically,
Yeah. Remember when we thought that maybe men could give birth out of their penis hole?
that would be easier
Than
than
this.
this. There's a massive design flaw at fault. And it's like, fix it.
Don't you think it's a miracle of life, though?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
How's the gas?
It's not helping with pain. It's
Yeah.
helping with not jumping out the window
Yeah.
yet.
Yet. Is there anything else about birth that if you had a feedback form about birth that you'd add?
Quicker.
Yeah.
Easier.
Yeah.
I think my baby might have a cone head. Because she described it as Marge Simpson.
I'm sorry. Did the midwife use the term Marge Simpson?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was at 2 a.m. and your
Yeah.
baby was born at 3 a.m.
Confirmed she did have a cone head.
Marge Simpson, I just think that's an interesting way to prepare
It was
you.
an Irish midwife.
Yep.
And she did the check and she went, oh, you're stuck. And then she said, oh, it's going to be a C-section. And then she said, oh, she's got a corn head like Marge Simpson.
I'm starting to feel a little disrespected.
And I started crying. And I think that they were like, oh, this poor girl doesn't want a
She
C-section.
was really attached to a vaginal birth.
And instead, I was picturing Marge Simpson being like, my poor baby, I'm going to get this baby.
Claire, I'm
after
looking at
all
Marge
this
Simpson
work."
after a haircut, like when her hair isn't as long. And it doesn't look unlike your baby. It's actually really prepared you.
Because actually, the cone is quite far back.
Yes.
It's not unlike Marge.
And she was born with a little cone head
Yeah.
and you did put a Christmas hat on
Yeah.
it.
And just on pain, I'd like to add, even for those who have a straightforward epidural, not the easy way out. You can feel stuff at the end. A lot of people think their epidural
Yeah.
wears off at the end. It didn't wear off. That's just what it feels like. Like
yeah.
pressure, you can feel yourself pushing. So that's epidural. Then there's C-section. There
Oh,
are
yeah.
people who think that a C-section is the easy way out.
Mm.
I've heard it described by a good friend as like someone doing the dishes in my stomach. That is what it is like. And then the recovery. And you have a baby and then you're standing
pick up,
like, and then there's all the things. You've got compression socks. You're taking all this medication for the pain and you feel like crap and you're trying to walk around. You got stitches.
This is like, you know, when pro male athletes have surgery and they go in and then they like recover and then they do weeks of rehab and then they have like a nutrition plan and such. It's like if you crossed all of that off and then just threw them a baby and they're like, well, I can't, I have no abdominal muscles.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, why aren't you feeding it round the clock? That's what.
have you tried not sleeping to recover? That might help.
Have you tried? Extreme stress. And also shame.
Yes.
Because I will now shame you for what you're doing
Yes.
while you recover from your surgery. How's that?
My next point, too yuck. All right. There's a lot of wet mess. So when
It's squelchy.
Oh, it's very squelchy. So when I realized that I hadn't in fact broken my waters, I had just urinated. At a later stage, I did water break and I felt it. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I wasn't going to say about waters breaking because it was gross. But you know what? I'm going to share it simply to see if anybody else has had this experience.
Yeah.
When your waters break,
Yeah.
like they did from like at home
Yeah.
and you've got a pad on,
Yeah.
there's a really distinct smell.
Yeah.
Ew.
I also
Yuck.
think the worst part, everyone's like, oh, I'm so worried that I'm going to poo or whatever. And it's like, what you don't realize, people are like, oh, you're not going to care. No, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
Because the amount of waste exiting your body through what now honestly feels like one orifice. Is just,
Her poo
is it
is
poo?
not-
Is it the baby's poo? Someone said that to you. They were
Yeah.
like, that's right. When Matilda finally came out, they were just like, oh, and she's done a poo. And you were like, did I? And they were like, no, the baby. And you were like, oh, I probably did too.
And they put her on. They said, oh, she's done a beautiful big poo. And I was like, thanks. And then they put her on me. And I was like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
However, there is now poo on my stomach, which I wouldn't mind if I had slept in 3 days and had not been through this horribly traumatic experience.
So you're an hour out. Tell us what happens in that final hour.
So, final hour, I get told you got push, and all of a sudden, the bed changes angle.
Yeah.
It's like a medieval torture device,
Yeah.
in that the bed changes angle so that it's like I'm almost upright.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom of the bed comes away, which I'm like, that's fun. Didn't know that was a feature of the bed till now.
Didn't happen to my bed.
Handlebars emerge.
Yep.
Where did the handlebars come from?
You're on a roller coaster.
Hold on to the handlebars. And I go, oh, why
And
do
they
I need
clip you in.
handlebars?
And a 14-year-old boy is like, we're about to start. And you're like, how'd you get in?
And Matilda, in all her drama, was like, I'm distressed.
I'm distressed now. Do you think she got distressed because she heard she looked like Marge Simpson? Like, imagine you're not even born.
Yeah. And your mum's crying about your head. Oh, sorry, babe.
You'd actually been so rude. And this
Yeah.
actually brings us to our next point, which is doesn't work technically.
Yeah.
So at this point, birth
Yeah.
ain't working.
So they said it was going to be a C-section earlier on. And then when they did the sweep just before going into theatre, she had moved and I was 8 centimetres. And so they said, actually, it's all good to be an hour. And I went, lovely.
And that's when they first brought up the flap.
Yeah. I forgot about
That
the
was
flap.
the flap of the cervix.
Also, they said it'd be an hour. It was another 7,
yes.
just so you know. And
Too long.
they said 8 centimetres, but
Lip
there's
of
a
your
lip of your
cervix.
cervix that isn't contracting. And
My
I was like,
cervix
that's
has lips. Because all the things are like, your body knows what to do. Just let your body get out of the way
You
of your
and
own
your
body.
baby know
And
what
it's
to
like,
do
okay,
together.
yeah, great. My cervix has a lip and it's not letting my baby out.
Yeah. And they're like, you and your baby are going to do this together. Your baby knows when it's coming. And it's like, my baby has it's broken because she has been stuck for so long.
Yeah.
So stuck that she has developed a cone from pushing
Against
getting
my
nowhere.
mostly closed cervix. Yeah.
And so I don't know if I ever got to 10 centimetres. I don't know.
No, because what she kept doing, the obstetrician kept doing, was putting her hand in and pushing the lip
The
out
lip
of the
out,
way to get you
yeah.
to push like around the lip.
Yeah. And so she said, got to get the baby out. I am going to use a vacuum. Which, was I picturing a Dyson? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to say anything, but me too.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
here we go.
Oh, no. Where
Here's
is
the
it?
Dyson.
Yeah.
gonna
My
get it
Dyson
out.
at home has all this dog hair in it. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, no.
I imagined a Dyson.
Yeah.
James Dyson has reinvented the vacuum.
Really long, 3/4 of a body
Yeah.
type vacuum suction device.
It's not that. It's a little suction cap.
It is a cat. It's more of a
It's a
hat.
hat. It's a hat.
It's more of a hat. Yeah.
And so she does, and she says, I'm going to do this vacuum and you're going to have to push. If you can't push, I'm going to have to use forceps and risk a bowel tear.
Yeah.
And
This isn't
now
what you want to hear.
that was the single greatest motivation I've ever had.
But
to
it was
push.
also very clutch. We say this about
Yeah.
you because you're kind of,
Very last minute.
you're very last minute, when under pressure, sometimes pull through.
Yeah.
And so we went, this could be Claire's moment
Yeah,
to
it's
just
like
really
you've
surprise
been,
us.
You've been frankly awful through this
You've
entire
had
labour.
2 days to get this baby out.
You haven't done shit, and you've just been whinging. And then they said you got to push, and I
You've
went,
got 3 pushes.
and
yeah.
I went, I don't know, push. I'm quite tired and sore, and it feels as though there is a bowling ball in my vag. And she said you got to push.
Yeah.
And I did, and I
That's
pushed.
not what a lazy girl wants to do.
No,
She hasn't practiced for
No.
that. She wants to go to sleep. And I watched her little head come out. I was feeling extremely emotional.
do you want to talk about the softness of her head and what it looked
Oh,
like?
yeah. It looks like a deflated balloon because it's white and blue, the head. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
look like a head. And she had quite a bit of hair, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And then I was feeling incredibly emotional because new life was coming into the
Mhm.
world. And I said, guys, I'm going to film it. What I wasn't noticing was that I was in the midst of a traumatic experience and that I had misread the room. Because
Because I
Rory
think you
looked
asked to film it just a minute after the obstetrician said, do I have your consent to perform an episiotomy?
Yeah,
And then you
and I was
said,
like, guys,
I
she's
got to film
here.
this. And I was like, nah. Actually, don't worry, we don't need that footage.
Nah.
We don't need
And I got my
it.
phone out and your partner was like, maybe another
Maybe the
baby.
next birth.
Maybe the next one.
In terms of too yuck, something fun. You start farting uncontrollably
No one talks
during
about
birth, and that goes on for days.
Is that an epidural thing?
Because
Because I couldn't control my butthole.
during birth, yes. But
Oh, not after birth.
Afterwards, it's because of the straining.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And this goes to the aftermath, which is just on doesn't work technically. Episiotomy, just for anyone who doesn't know what that is, what did they have to do?
So it's when you're going to tear, and so they go, we'll do a little incision so that you don't tear uncontrollably.
So we'll control it. We'll cut into your thigh.
So don't worry, we'll cut from your vag kind of sideways.
In.
Can I just say, though, recovery, excellent.
Okay, did you know, I Googled one thing before I came in here, up to 9 in 10 women will have a tear/graze/episiotomy from birth, which just backs up my point, doesn't work technically.
No.
Because I had what they
No.
call a labia graze, but it's not a graze. I had to get stitches. My labia just full flapping open.
That's a tear. That's a tear.
That's a tear.
And then if you have a C-section, that's a tummy tear. And that is like
tell me that's
layers
working.
and layers and layers of flesh.
It ain't it.
Come on.
Which brings us to the aftermath. So speak to me about your butthole. I warned you about a few things. The first was a lack of control of the butthole, because what happens is you've pushed so hard and they say you've got to push like you're doing a poo. And I went, all right, I've pulled my muscles, because what's happened is people are in my room, I can't hold in my farts. There are a lot of people in here.
Every time
Family,
any kind of
friends.
specialist came in, I was like, I was just looking at them like, I just gave birth.
I can't control it.
No.
I can't. And sometimes there'd be a sound and I'd say, oh, it's the baby. And then Luca would say, do I have to change a nappy? And then I would say yes. And then he'd open it. There was nothing in there. And I was like, oh my God, phantom fart. It wasn't Luna. It was me.
So-
and the other warning I gave you, smells like a farm. Disgusting.
Okay. So your farts smell like farm.
Yep.
Interestingly, and me and Rory spoke at length about this, your farts smell like your baby, who also smells like farm. It's something to do with the gut. It's wild. But everything smells like farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole room, I was like, it smells like straw. It smells like cow. It smells like
according to Amy Schumer, it smells like barn.
My pussy smells like a small barnyard animal. Okay?
A barn.
It smells like a barn. But so does your sweat.
Yeah.
So does your body. You're just like,
As you're bleeding, because when you stand up for the first time, you're like, la la, and then they put a towel between your legs. And you go, why you got to? Oh, because my innards are falling out.
on, they've fallen.
And that smells like farm.
Also, because you go for a walk afterwards, and this is after a vaginal birth. And I imagine it's similar for C-section, because this is about your pelvic floor and all your organs moving. But you stand up afterwards and you're like, my liver's going to fall out on the hospital floor, in the right place for it. But it's this heaviness in your stomach that you're just like all of a sudden, and I guess it's like your spine is like a straw in a barrel because you have no core muscles anymore.
Lovely.
Because you've been, so you're just kind of this straw in a
Yeah,
barrel.
whoa.
And then it's like, do you want to hold a baby? And you're like, whoa, I'm a bendy straw.
Everything's broken.
And everything's broken.
The other thing about the aftermath,
Mm-hmm.
feeding. Now, this is the thing. You got to feed like straight away.
Yep.
They're like, oh, baby's on your chest. Get him to latch.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends, and I almost did this, who you give birth, you go, okay, it's nighttime. We'll have a sleep, shall we? Given what we did. You sleep the whole night.
Yeah.
A midwife comes in and says, hi,
How many times
how many
do you feed?
times did you feed overnight? And you say, what? And they say, feeding. You got to feed them every 2 to 3 hours. I forgot. I forgot.
I slept for 8 hours, and you know what? I had a great sleep, in case you're wondering.
So-
I slept very deeply.
I did get a shock when they came in and said, feed. I went, why has she got to feed?
I don't need a feed.
Yeah.
I had dinner.
I've already had my dinner. And they're like, she's got to feed. And feeding is fucked for everyone in a new and different way. Okay? You either have too little milk, too much milk.
Yep.
Nipples are too sore. Baby falls asleep when they go on your boob.
Mm-hmm.
Baby needs to be woken up. Baby screams at your boob for no reason. There is always a feeding issue.
Yep.
It's just a matter of what it is for
Which
you.
one you're going to get lucky dip.
So
It's
lucky.
a lucky dip.
There's a lot to deal with post-traumatic event.
Our last one, the furniture, and then in brackets, removalist.
Mm-hmm.
By this, I am referring to Ali Wong's quote, "You know what happens after the baby comes out? You know what else exists? Her house, her living room, her pillows, the Bob Marley poster, all the food that went bad in her refrigerator." This is all very true. Shall we talk about the furniture?
Yeah.
Just flagging. The next day I was like, liver just fell out in the toilet. You made a plop.
Yeah.
It's red and livery, could be an ovary.
Mm.
And she was like, how big? And I was like, size of a duckling. I don't know, duckling. She's like, all good. But then there's one that's like size of a football and it's like, well, that's your placenta. And I'm like, well, how? And that's bad.
Yeah.
So there's a very specific size and it's like, I don't have a tape measure.
I had Irish midwives and I just remember in the days afterwards I'd be like, this just happened. They said in the Irish accent, normal? And I was like, is that normal?
Because you know what? It's normal, but it's not fine. It's not fine.
It is not fine. The furniture coming out is
a
hectic.
lot.
And here's the thing. You're wearing a nappy and your baby's wearing a nappy. Then the midwife comes in and says, how many dirty nappies today? And you say, mine or hers? Mine or hers? Because I've
6
had
each.
more. I've had more.
I've potentially had more.
And then-
I don't know what's in my nappy. Lot more concerning.
a nappy,
more.
fine.
And I would wear, because I didn't wear a nappy the first night because I was like, oh, surely just a maternity pad.
I did exactly the same thing, maternity pad, and then somebody
It'll be
visited me with
fine.
nappies.
Yes. And then I woke up the next morning and got up and I was like, okay, may you change my sheets because there's blood everywhere.
This seems to be a nappy situation.
I was like, I am hemorrhaging. They were like, no.
I didn't know there was a nappy situation.
Yeah.
But it really
But
is.
it really is. It's time for charges and sentences. Claire, what is your charge?
Well, I mean, it's hard because it's like the charge is too much. The sentence is you get something lovely at the end. A baby.
Oh, that's a bit positive.
And you look at your baby and you go, oh, I think it was worth it. And that's the trap.
But you know what? Worth it. I reckon I'd love my baby the same without the pain.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You know what
so
I mean?
obviously I've got an alternative charge.
Okay, yeah.
So charge, too much / chaos. And what I mean by that is why can't I prep for this? There's no planning. There's no studying. It's like I remember the week before I gave birth, I was with girlfriends and I said, it's weird knowing it's going to be the most hectic situation of my life and yet I can't do anything to mitigate it ahead of time.
I feel like most things in my diary too, it's like I go and get my hair done. I'm like, oh, it'll be 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I'll go and exercise or whatever, like max an hour,
It's
right? It's just weird that it's like, I need this in my diary,
It's
but
like
for how long?
at any point you could give birth now or in a month.
Yeah.
And it could go any way and you have absolutely no way of telling.
And it's like, just surrender. And it's like, I don't want to.
No, I want to know more.
Yeah.
So, my sentence. We need a solution.
Okay.
We need a solution.
With our pregnancy episode, I believe that we were talking about the spotted hyena and we said the birthing out of the penis hole.
Yeah.
I mean, is that where we're at?
Men need to have more of a
An active role.
sense of how much it hurts. Okay? Just as a society, not even like male partners or anything, because there are so many people who do this with a female partner, do this without a partner. But men need to know. We do need a solution that is more fair and balanced and that doesn't involve breaking women from the inside.
Yeah.
And also emotionally.
My charge is what I think you so eloquently said in that voice note, which was do much, be less, etc.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I totally agree. My sentence is that we lay eggs.
Oh, shit. Yes, because animals,
Why
the
haven't we
egg
evolved
does
to
the
lay an egg?
work.
Yeah.
The egg does the work.
And don't
know
you
what I
think, like,
mean?
it's nice meeting your baby, but if, as you say, when a baby comes out, they do look a little bit funny. It's like maybe they just need, like,
a casing.
a week in an egg. You know what I mean? Because a week later, they look way better.
Yeah. And the egg can like...
And then they can, like, hatch.
Yeah. But the egg can be when they're smaller and it's easier.
And if they were in an egg, things couldn't get stuck. My elbow got stuck in my mum. You know, you're not getting like your head.
You're not getting kicked in the uterus.
You're not, for example. And maybe it wouldn't have mattered that Matilda was so long.
Because here's the other thing that I didn't know till you give birth. You give birth and then you look down at it the next day. Why is the whole area bruised?
Yes, I meant to bring that up.
The whole area
is bruised.
And I don't know what that's from, but I assume it's from the baby coming out.
It could have been unrelated.
Slash the obstetrician sticking their hand up your vag. But I feel like there's some kicking.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
She was kicking on her way
Kicking
out.
and punching.
Well, that does, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that if we laid an egg out of our butthole, it would be easier than our vagina.
Lay an egg at 12 weeks.
Oh, my God. And then just watch it.
And then
watch it.
I'll watch it. Put it under heat or something like a leg.
Yeah, no, I'll sit there, watch it. Absolutely.
I'll make a nest.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cancelled. It is so nice to be back to normal here on Cancelled. Claire and I are both here recording new episodes, and that means new presents.
Yeah, new presents for our lazy girl. So you might have heard last year that we did a giveaway. And the idea is lazy girls be too lazy to enter all these different competitions.
Yes, exactly right.
Lazy girl.
She's a lazy girl.
So we have lazy girl giveaways where you enter one thing.
Yeah.
Which is becoming a Mamamia subscriber, and you automatically go in the draw
to win things. And what is really good is we don't worry, we're not in charge of sending because you wouldn't have got it.
Oh my God.
But I have confirmation that people who won the giveaway got the thing.
Received their prizes.
They received their prizes.
Oh.
So there is a process established by someone else that's working.
Incredible.
What I have done, I haven't told you this, is I've handpicked my 4 favourite books of the summer.
Oh my God, what are they?
Okay, None of This Is True by
Incredible,
Lisa Jewell.
read it, obviously.
Which I just became obsessed with Lisa Jewell. The Family Upstairs is the next one. Have you read that yet?
That's Lisa Jewell as well.
Yeah. The Family Remains, which is the
I'm reading that right
sequel.
now.
It is brilliant.
So those 3 books
Yeah.
have gotten me through breastfeeding. But anyway,
And Demon Copperhead was
Best
probably
book I've
my
ever read.
favourite book of last year, best book I've ever read.
I think it could be my favourite book of all time.
So those 4 books make up what I'm going to call like a summer library, a summer lazy girl library. And so we are giving them away to 3 listeners, our pack of 4 books. Entering into the giveaway, really multi-step, complicated process. Claire, what do you have to do?
You just have to become a Mamamia subscriber.
What if I'm already a subscriber?
Well, then you already entered. You don't have to do nothing.
Oh my goodness.
You don't have to tick a box. You don't have to send an expression of interest.
Oh,
we know
God.
you're interested.
If you're not a subscriber yet, you can just enter immediately, which is you go to giveaways.mamamia.com.au and become a Mamamia subscriber. And when we have more and more giveaways, Claire, I haven't told you yet about the giveaways I'm discussing.
Really?
But they are actually so fun. There are lots that we've got coming up that are great. This is the first giveaway for us for the year, but it will definitely not be the last. So click the link in the show notes for more info. And as always, T's and C's apply. The executive producer of Cancelled is Talissa Bazaz, with audio editing by Thom. And please join us at The Twins Thoughts on Instagram, where we do all of our receipts, images, that sorts of things. We will put pictures up of Matilda. Maybe we could put that picture up of Matilda where she's saying, I'm the drama.
Oh, there is a very I'm the drama photo.
Yeah.
Many photos of her being the drama, actually.
Yeah. Okay, we will do that.
And I think we have some photos of me in labour, which are pretty fucked.
Yeah, let's do that.
So that's fun.
And then I'm also going to upload a picture of an egg.
Yeah.
Just as an example of what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, lovely.
We will be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.